Growing up, I had zero knowledge of Israel or Palestine, and I thought Israel was like this ancient mythical city that only existed in the Bible. And I've heard of Palestine, but it was just one of the many Middle Eastern regions that I knew nothing about. I also didn't know that many Jewish or Arab people, so I didn't have much exposure to what was going on there, and frankly, I had no interest in it. But when I graduated college, I made a Jewish friend, and there was this one time when she told me about her vacation to Israel. She told me it was like this fun group trip that's paid for by the Israeli government, and you get to learn about Jewish history and that kind of stuff. It sounded like a scam, which now I know it kind of is. But she showed me pictures of Tel Aviv and all these areas in Israel, and it all looked beautiful. There was nothing sketchy about it. So naturally, I asked, does that mean I can go to Israel for free too? Which I know it's a stupid question now, but it made sense in my head at the time because for all I know, it was like a free trip to promote tourism or something. And then she told me that it was only for Jewish people and it's a quote unquote birthright trip. But I knew that she was born and raised in LA, so I asked her if her family's from Israel. And she said no, her family's from the States, which was even more confusing because why would a random country in the other side of the world provide free trips for foreigners? I just concluded in my head that it must be a super rich country, maybe with like a birth rate problem, kind of like a lot of Asian countries. So they're trying to promote selective religious immigration or tourism that I couldn't understand because of cultural differences. Fast forward a few years and I moved to the East Coast where there's a bigger Arab population. There's this very popular park that I used to walk by a lot, and there was this building right next to it with a mural that said Free Palestine. Just out of pure curiosity, I looked up what this meant, and that's when I learned that Israel and Palestine are geographically the same place, and that Israel was not a quote unquote normal country like China or France or something, but a colonial state created in 1948 that's currently occupying Palestine. After I learned this, everything that I was confused about concerning Israel's birthright trips all made sense. It was just settler colonialism, plain and simple, where the colonial power pushes propaganda and provides incentives for their preferred demographic to visit, to move, to establish a stronger presence in the region in order to overpower and eventually push out the native population. I don't talk about ancient Middle Eastern history or the Levant or the Kingdom of Judea, not only because I don't know much about it, but also because what happened in the fucking Iron Age in like 900 BC is really interesting, but it has nothing to do with the colonial project of Israel that's younger than my grandma. And I might not know much about Judaism or Islam or the history of the Holy Land, but I do know what happened in the last century, and I know colonialism when I see it. What's happening right now to Palestinians is no different from what happened to the natives, the Africans, Black Americans, Latin Americans, Asians, even Jewish people in World War II. There's no complexity or confusion about that because every time colonialism happens, it's always the same. It's the same rhetoric, the same dehumanization that always happens regardless of which demographic is being victimized. Obviously, I'm not Palestinian, Arab, or Israeli Jewish, so I can't speak on what it must be like for people who are directly affected by this. But honestly, in this case, I don't think it really matters because what I do know of is colonialism, I know racism, I know imperialism, and that alone has taught me enough to recognize that the Palestinian cause is not just about who gets to live in this little region, but it really is a fight for humanity. And if you have any sense of morality in you, you should support Palestine too.